Navy SEALs mocked her as a waitress at Navy base. Then the commander froze seeing the Trident ring. The lunch crowd at Harbor Point Base Grill was loud enough to shake the metal frames on the walls. Navy SEALs moved in and out like a tide, boots heavy on the polished floor, laughter echoing across the room. Talia Brooks, the 27-year-old waitress weaving between tables, carried 2 pitchers balanced on one arm. Her ponytail, dark and simple, brushed her shoulder each time she turned. Most people barely glanced at her. Just a waitress. Just another civilian serving them food. But today the comments were louder. Asterisk, hey, careful, sweetheart. That tray probably weighs more than you do. Asterisk. 3 SEALs at table 9 snickered, leaning back in their chairs. Talia didn't break pace. She'd learned long ago that silence was safer than reacting. Her breath stayed steady, her smile practiced, her posture calm. She set the pitchers down and stepped back just as one of them, Petty Officer Reed Morgan, tall, broad, restless, tapped the table with 2 fingers. "Crazy they let anyone work here now," Reed said, lifting a fry like a pointer. "Lower standards everywhere." His buddies laughed again. Talia didn't. As she turned, something heavy slid beneath the hem of her shirt, a small chain, hidden deep, brushing her ribs. A reminder. A promise. Something no one here knew. Not yet. The walls of Harbor Point were coated in Navy memorabilia, old plaques, rusted anchor pieces, faded mission photos. The kind of place where every shadow held history. And yet, somehow, Talia always looked like she didn't belong inside those stories. At least, that's what the SEALs assumed. Reed leaned back, arms folded across his chest, watching her move. "She's tiny," he muttered. "Imagine her trying to lug gear across Coronado. Hell, imagine her trying to run a mile." His friend let out a bark laugh. "A mile? Try half." Talia collected empty glasses from the next table over. One slipped from the edge, shattering against the floor. The room went quiet. Eyes turned. She crouched instantly, sweeping up the shards with practiced movements. Reed smirked. "Need help down there?" he called. "Or do we need to call emergency services?" His group laughed again. But as Talia reached for the final shard, something glinted beneath the metal leg of the table beside her. A ring, silver, familiar, heavy with meaning. Her heart jolted once, sharp. She slid her hand forward discreetly. Before she touched it, a boot came down on the floor inches from her knuckles. Reed's. He didn't move it. Not right away. Reed bent forward, his grin wide and unkind. "What do we have here?" he said, voice low but loud enough for 3 other tables to hear. Talia rose slowly, glass pieces collected in her tray. She kept her expression neutral. Not cold. Not afraid. Just steady. Reed lifted his boot at the last second, letting her pick up the ring. She didn't look at it. Didn't react. She simply placed it on her tray beside the broken glass. Reed plucked it back up, spinning it around his finger like a toy. The Trident engraving caught the dim light, unmistakable to anyone who ever served. Every SEAL looked up. "That's some fancy jewelry," Reed said. "Did you buy it online with the other wannabes?" A few chuckles. Talia's voice was quiet. "It's not a prop." "Oh? It yours?" Reed mocked. "Because last I checked, you're taking orders, not jumping out of helicopters." "It belonged to someone," she answered. "Let me guess," he scoffed. "Your uncle? Your neighbor? Your imaginary boyfriend?" Talia didn't blink. "My father." Reed's smirk widened. "Cute story. Too bad stolen valor's a real thing." At a corner booth across the room, Commander Jordan Hale lowered his newspaper and stared. Commander Hale, age 54, wore quiet authority like a second skin. Salt and pepper hair. Weathered face. A posture you couldn't mistake for anything but years of service. He'd watched the scene unfold from afar, first with mild irritation, then with sharpening interest. Now, the moment he saw the ring in Reed's hand, his expression froze. That wasn't a standard-issue Trident. That was a heritage ring, Older, heavier, engraved on the inside with initials only a handful of people would recognize. His gaze snapped to Talia. Reed tossed the ring into the air once, catching it sloppily. "You want it back," he taunted. "Prove it's real. Otherwise," he shrugged, sliding it into his pocket. Talia's jaw tightened just a fraction, the smallest tell. Hale leaned forward in his booth, watching her walk toward the kitchen doors, glass tray balanced against her hip. Reed leaned back, smirking at the table. "Man, she almost had me crying," he joked. "Bet her seal dad is a barista." But Hale was no longer listening. He knew that face, those eyes. He had seen her once before, years ago. A funeral. A folded flag. A girl standing ramrod straight. Behind the kitchen door, the noise softened to a low hum. Talia exhaled slowly, placing the tray of broken glass into the bin. The stainless steel counters reflected the bright fluorescent lights, painting her face in pale silver. She moved to the small staff room, barely a closet with a mirror cracked down the center. Reaching beneath her shirt, she pulled out a thin chain. Hanging from it was another Trident ring. A second one. The real one. She wiped it clean with a small cloth, her hands gentle, almost reverent. The engraving shimmered faintly. J.B. Triton 12. Her thumb traced the initials. "Dad." "I'm close," she whispered. A soft knock sounded. The door cracked open, revealing Lieutenant Mara Cooper, 30, uniform neat, expression warm with concern. "You okay?" Mara asked. Talia nodded. "Just a rough table." "Reed Morgan again?" Talia didn't deny it. Mara stepped inside, lowering her voice. "You sure you want to keep coming here? This place, these guys, they don't know who you are." "They don't need to," Talia said, slipping the ring back under her shirt. "Not until the right moment." Mara studied her. "And that moment is tonight?" Talia looked at the mirror. "Tonight." The training yard was silent except for the distant hum of wind sweeping over the concrete. Kira stood alone in the center, her fists trembling at her sides. After weeks of humiliation, quiet sabotage, and whispered gossip, today was the first time she truly felt it. She might break. Colonel Rourke's voice echoed in her memory. Asterisk, "You're not soldier material. You're a clerical error in uniform." Asterisk. But what hurt more was the look on her platoon's faces. Not anger. Not even mockery. Just disappointment. As if she had already failed them without ever being given a chance. Kira sank to the ground, staring at the dust on her boot. Something inside her whispered. Asterisk, "Why are you still here?" Asterisk. And yet, another voice, quiet, stubborn, whispered back. "Because I haven't shown them who I really am." Her breath steadied. Her fist curled. Her eyes sharpened. For the first time, Kira stood not because she had to, but because she refused to leave her own story unfinished. Unknown to Kira, someone else had been watching. Sergeant Hale, the only one who never laughed at her, never mocked, never questioned, stood hidden near the gate, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. He had seen everything. Her restraint. Her discipline. Her strange habit of deliberately failing basic drills she was clearly capable of performing. He muttered under his breath. Asterisk, "Why are you hiding, Ashford?" Asterisk. When Kira straightened again, wiping the dust from her palms, something shifted in Hale's expression. Not pity. Not suspicion. Recognition. As if he finally understood. She wasn't weak. She was protecting something. Or someone. Later that night, Hale confronted her in the dim glow of the barracks corridor. "Hiding your skills makes you invisible. But not to me," he said quietly. Kira froze. Hale stepped closer. "I've seen recruits fake incompetence. But not like you. Not this consistent. Not this controlled." He paused. "Who trained you?" Kira's heartbeat thundered. Old memories flashed. A burning village, a man dragging her to safety, a voice whispering asterisk, "Survive by being underestimated." Asterisk. She swallowed hard. "I wasn't supposed to stand out," she whispered. Growing up, power meant danger. So I learned to disappear. Hale exhaled sharply, not in frustration, but in understanding. You're not disappearing anymore, he said. Tomorrow, you show them who you are. Colonel Rourke called for a surprise endurance trial at dawn, a brutal assessment meant to expose weakness. Everyone expected Kira to be the first to drop. Rourke smirked openly. Try to keep up, Captain. But when the whistle blew, Kira didn't hold back. Not today. Not anymore. She moved with precision that shocked the entire unit. Perfect footwork, controlled breathing, flawless coordination, strength hidden beneath months of fake incompetence. Rourke's smirk disappeared. Whispers followed her like a current. Is that really her? How did we never notice? What else is she hiding? By the time the trial ended, Kira wasn't gasping for breath like the others. She stood tall, silent, unshaken, and for the first time, Rourke looked worried. The platoon gathered around her after dismissal, not to mock, not to doubt, but to stare, stunned, speechless, at the soldier they had never truly seen before. One recruit stepped forward cautiously. Why didn't you show this earlier? Kira looked at them, really looked, and her voice was steady. Because strength without purpose is chaos. I needed to know who I was fighting for. Hale watched from the distance, proud. Colonel Rourke, however, clenched his jaw. Kira's rise wasn't just unexpected. It threatened the order he controlled. The screen fades on Rourke's expression. Cold. Calculating. Planning his next move. Because this wasn't the end of Kira's story. It was the beginning of her war. Colonel Rourke wasn't a man who tolerated surprises, especially not ones that threatened his authority. That evening, he summoned Kira to the command tent. The air inside felt heavy, thick with unspoken hostility. Rourke circled her slowly. A predator evaluating prey that suddenly grew teeth. So, he said, voice calm but eyes blazing, you've been hiding your abilities. Kira didn't flinch. I've been surviving, sir. Rourke's jaw tightened. Survival isn't the trait I want in my officers. Obedience is. He stopped inches from her face. Tomorrow's combat simulation, you'll lead a squad. I expect to see if today was real. Or a fluke. But Kira knew the truth. This wasn't a test. It was a trap. Word spread quickly. Kira, the invisible captain, was suddenly in charge. Her squad gathered around her in the pre-dawn dark. Adler, always outspoken. Seema, quiet but sharp. Reyes, skeptical but loyal. And Juno, the youngest, eyes full of doubt. They didn't trust her yet. They didn't know her story. How could they? Kira exhaled, steadying her voice. I'm not here to impress the colonel, she said. I'm here to make sure every one of you walks out of that field alive. Juno asked softly, why do you care? You barely know us. Kira turned to him, eyes clear, voice soft but unbreakable. Because someone once saved my life when they didn't have to. And I swore I would grow into the kind of person who did the same. Silence. Then slowly, one by one, they nodded. For the first time, Kira wasn't standing alone. The combat simulation began under a bruised gray sky. Explosions echoed in the distance. Smoke drifted across the gravel. Rourke watched from the observation deck, arms crossed, calculating. He had stacked the scenario against her. Ambushes, faulty intel, impossible time limit, zero margin for error. But Kira adapted instantly. Adler, flank left. Seema, cover our retreat path. Reyes with me. She moved like someone who had spent years studying the battlefield in silence, absorbing everything while pretending to see nothing. Her squad followed. Not because they had to, but because they believed. Even Juno moved with new confidence, his fear melting into determination. Every trap Rourke laid, Kira dismantled. Every obstacle, she turned into advantage. And slowly, Rourke's expression shifted from smug certainty to stunned disbelief. The last objective was a hilltop bunker, heavily guarded, nearly impossible to take. Juno hesitated. We'll never make it in time. Kira knelt beside him, placing a steady hand on his shoulder. Look at me, she said gently. You're stronger than your fear. Trust yourself. Juno swallowed hard and nodded. They moved as one. Adler drew fire. Seema provided cover from above. Reyes breached the side entrance. And Kira led the charge straight through the heart of the defense like a blade slicing through storm winds. They reached the center console just as the timer hit 0. Silence. Then, a loud buzzer signaled mission completion. Her squad erupted into cheers. But Kira didn't react. She was staring at the observation deck. At Rourke. At the man whose control she had just shattered. Back at base, the entire platoon surrounded her. Not mocking. Not whispering. But applauding. Some clapped her shoulder. Others smiled in disbelief. Juno looked at her with outright admiration. Even the officers exchanged glances. Respect replacing doubt. Sergeant Hale approached her last. You didn't just pass, he said. You changed the way they see you. And the way they see themselves. Kira felt something she hadn't felt in years. Belonging. But then Rourke stepped forward, face dark. This isn't a victory, he hissed. You embarrassed me. You disobeyed the unspoken order. Stay small. Kira stood taller. I'm not small, sir. I never was. I just needed the courage to stop hiding. Rourke glared, but he couldn't deny the truth. The soldiers behind her were no longer his. They were hers. Night settled over the base as Kira walked alone toward the training yard, the same place she once felt invisible. She looked up at the sky, stars scattered like shards of broken glass. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel like she was running from her past. She was running toward her future. A soft breeze brushed against her. The world felt wider, larger, possible. Her voice echoed quietly. I don't know where this path leads, but I'm done hiding. The camera pulls back. The yard grows smaller. The base fades into the distance. And Kira stands alone in the moonlight. Not as the woman who survived by shrinking, but as the soldier who finally stepped into her own greatness. Her story isn't over. It has only just begun. ***.